a beautiful girl, was loved by every man in a single family for over 300 years. Long ago, she was abandoned inside a hollow of a cherry blossom tree. When a man named Mansaku found her, there was still pink froth from the tree at the corner of her mouth. Mansaku took her home and adopted her, giving her the name Sayasu. Strangely, Sayasu's growth was incredibly slow. Even after more than 10 years, she still looked like a baby. She ate no regular food, surviving solely on the pink froth from the cherry blossom tree. Decades later, Mansaku and his wife passed away, but Sayasu still had the appearance of a child. After that, her 5 senses, sight, hearing, and so on, began to fade, and she was frequently bedridden. Whenever Sayasu fell ill, the cherry blossom tree would stop blooming. As time passed, Sayasu became increasingly beautiful, like the very embodiment of the cherry blossom tree itself. Mansaku's descendants treated her as a rare treasure, passing her down from generation to generation. One spring during cherry blossom season, a man named Ginko heard tales of a stunningly beautiful ancient cherry blossom tree during his travels. Ginko was a powerful Mushishi, a specialist who dealt with supernatural beings known as Mushi. On his journey, he happened to meet a girl from the other side of the mountain. The girl told him that near the ancient tree lived a famed doctor named Takuji. She was heading there to get medicine for her ailing mother. Guided by the girl, Ginko arrived at the cherry blossom tree, but found that it had not blossomed at all. After saying goodbye to Ginko, the girl knocked on Takuji's door. Takuji told her the medicine wouldn't be ready until the next day, and invited her to stay the night. At that moment, Ginko was examining the cherry blossom tree, but he couldn't detect anything out of the ordinary. Just as he was about to leave, a stunning woman suddenly appeared near him. Ginko approached and asked why the cherry blossom tree hadn't bloomed, but the woman didn't respond. She just sat there blankly. Ginko grew suspicious. Could it be that a Mushi was affecting the tree? Right then, Takuji arrived. Curious, Ginko asked, "Is she your wife?" Takuji denied it, saying Sayasu was just a relative, and that she had lost both her sight and hearing. Ginko asked whether Sayasu had ever consumed the pink froth from the cherry blossom tree. He explained that the froth was actually a kind of supernatural organism, what they call a Mushi. If a person ingests it, their 5 senses slowly become numb. Takuji ignored Ginko's words and tried to take Sayasu away. Ginko questioned how. As a doctor, Takuji couldn't identify her illness. Takuji explained he wasn't truly a doctor, but a florist. His family had been florists for generations, skilled in tree grafting, able to cultivate ever more beautiful blossoms. Their family had a deep passion for botany, and also brewed herbal remedies to help those in need. The ancient cherry blossom tree was a treasured heirloom, passed down through generations. With that, Takuji took Sayasu and left. But later that night, Takuji snuck out to gather the pink froth from the cherry blossom tree, only to be caught by Ginko, who had stayed near the tree. It turned out, Takuji's so-called medicine was made from Mushi. While some of these Mushi had life-extending properties, they were still supernatural creatures, and could have terrifying effects on the human body. Takuji said that some people were willing to lose their sight and hearing, just to escape pain and illness. Ginko said he might be able to help Sayasu recover her vision and hearing. Then Takuji revealed Sayasu's backstory to Ginko. She had been found by Takuji's grandfather 80 years ago inside the cherry blossom tree hollow. After his grandfather passed, Sayasu was cared for by Takuji's father, who, on his deathbed, entrusted her to Takuji. Desperate to cure Sayasu, Takuji invited Ginko back to his house. Ginko admitted that although he could drive out the Mushi, there was no guarantee Sayasu would survive afterward. That night, Sayasu's condition worsened. She began coughing up blood. Takuji muttered to himself, "There's no time left." Afterward, he brought a bowl of medicine to the girl staying the night, and falsely claimed that it was for her mother to try. He claimed the medicine might cause an allergic reaction, so it was better if she tried it first. Meanwhile, Ginko was in the study looking through old documents left by Mansaku, and noticed that the books were far older than a few decades. These books were evidently penned by multiple generations. It was clear now that Takuji had lied. What he gave the girl wasn't medicine, it was a sedative. He coveted her healthy body, and planned to decapitate her, to graft her head onto Sayasu's body using their family's tree grafting techniques. Like all the men in his family, He was obsessed with Sayasu's beauty. Ginko arrived to stop him. Then it all became clear. Takuchi's family had been using this horrific method for generations to prolong Sayasu's life. Takuchi confessed that Mansaku had been his ancestor 8 generations back. He admitted that without these rituals, Sayasu's body would wither and die. To preserve her beauty for 300 years, his family had continued these cruel acts. To prevent another tragedy, Ginko kicked over the oil lamp, grabbed the girl, and fled. Flames quickly consumed the house and spread to the ancient cherry blossom tree. In an instant, the tree glowed with a strange light, blossoms bursting into bloom. But they weren't true cherry blossoms, they were countless Mushi. At the same time, Mushi swarmed out of Sayasu's body, and she, like a plant, withered away. At last, Sayasu was freed from 300 years of captivity. Because of her beauty, Takuchi's family had tried to possess her forever using grafting techniques, treating her like a sacred object passed down through the generations. Such a twisted form of love, selfish and insincere. They say the cherry blossom tree wasn't entirely destroyed by the fire, but after that night, no one ever saw Takuchi or the beautiful Sayasu again. Kyoko ages rapidly every day, but the next day, she returns to her youthful appearance. The island villagers call her a living god. Every day on the small island, crowds of people occasionally come, bringing offerings. They are all believers of Kyoko, because every time her body suddenly grows old, a strange mist is emitted from her nose. There was once a terminally ill patient who inhaled it, and miraculously, their illness disappeared. People became convinced this mist was divine mist, able to cure any disease. Many were willing to go bankrupt just for one breath. As a child, Kyoko was a normal girl. She also had a childhood friend named Hiroshi. They made a promise to one day leave the island and explore the exciting world beyond. But one day, Kyoko was forcibly taken away by her father. When Hiroshi saw her again, she had already become the so-called living god the villagers worshipped, and Kyoko seemed to have lost all her memories. Hiroshi was certain it was a scam, because he once overheard Kyoko's father, Fujita, speaking with his subordinates. That's when he realized the so-called living god was a lie made up by the island chief Fujita to get rich. He was sure Kyoko simply had a strange illness, so he traveled to the mainland to find a doctor. Unexpectedly, he brought back Ginko. After hearing Hiroshi's story, Ginko believed Mushi must be involved, so he and Hiroshi secretly sneaked into Kyoko's room. After witnessing her transform from young to old with his own eyes, Ginko noticed traces of Mushi in her nasal cavity. This particular Mushi only lives for one day. After laying eggs, it immediately dies, and in that moment, it releases the so-called divine mist. But Ginko didn't yet have a solution. They discovered some animals near the cape also infected by Mushi. Ginko brought them back for experimentation. After several days of research, Ginko finally found a way to drive the Mushi out. They returned to Kyoko's room once more. Ginko found the Mushi near her nasal bridge and carefully pricked it with a needle. Soon, the Mushi crawled out on its own. Kyoko regained consciousness. Hiroshi told her everything that had happened. He planned to run away with her, far from the island, but Kyoko didn't want to leave, because she believed her father must have had his reasons, and if she left, her father would just find someone else to play the role of living god. Ginko suggested, if they eradicated the Mushi entirely, no one else would suffer. Kyoko only remembered the day she came home. Her father brought a flower that looked like a morning glory. After she smelled it, she lost consciousness. Coincidentally, Hiroshi had seen that flower in a cave by the cape, but that cave could only be entered during high tide, and the next high tide wouldn't come for another 3 days. During this time, Kyoko had to keep pretending, but her mind was often cloudy. She even began to miss her days as the living god. Back then, she experienced life and death every day. Her memories were fleeting, but it felt fulfilling. Now that she was normal again, the long future ahead terrified her. Ginko explained that was because her biological rhythm had synced with the Mushi inside her. Each day, she died with the adult Mushi and was reborn with the newborn. It was like living through reincarnation. She'd adapt with time. When the tide finally came, Ginko and Hiroshi entered the cave. Sure enough, they found many of those flowers deep inside. At the same time, Island Chief Fujita realized something was wrong. He immediately rushed to the cave with his men. They surrounded Ginko and Hiroshi inside and ordered them killed. Then, Fujita picked one of the flowers, planning to turn his daughter into the living god once more. But just then, all the villagers arrived, because Kyoko, in order to save Ginko and Hiroshi, had revealed the truth to everyone. She never expected that the furious villagers would beat Fujita to death. Kyoko couldn't accept what had happened. She believed it was her fault that her father died. That's when she noticed the flower in his arms. To escape this cruel reality, she chose to become the living god once again. Ginko wanted to remove the mushi from her, but Hiroshi stopped him, because deep down, Hiroshi had realized Kyoko was always melancholic when she was fully conscious. Only when she was the living god did she wear a truly content smile, so he decided to let her stay in that world without pain. He planned to remain on the island and take care of her for the rest of his life. In this long and uncertain life, people are often lost and overwhelmed, but it's exactly because life is long that we have infinite possibilities and the chance to encounter all kinds of beautiful things. At the village entrance, the old folks would always say, "Never play hide-and-seek at dusk," but curious little Junko ignored the warning, and in the next moment, a shadow appeared out of nowhere on the ground, the shadow that stepped directly on Junko's. That very night, Junko disappeared. The entire village gathered and went up the mountain to search for her, but found nothing at all. They believed Junko must have been taken by a monster. Just when everyone was ready to give up, they stumbled upon a strange girl. The villagers brought her back to the village, but the elders insisted she was a monster in disguise. The girl tried to explain, but couldn't remember anything. Only Junko's father believed otherwise. He knew this timid girl couldn't possibly be a monster. Her personality was so much like Junko's. He ignored the others' warnings and took her in. He gave her a name, Misaki. Misaki was a gentle child and full of gratitude. She helped out around the house every day. And slowly, the villagers began to accept her. But a boy who once liked Junko was full of resentment toward Misaki. He warned her never to wear Junko's old hair clip. At that moment, the usually mild-mannered Misaki finally snapped. She explained that if it weren't a gift from her adoptive father, she wouldn't treasure it so deeply. Time flew by, and 10 years passed. Misaki had grown into a woman. She married the very boy who once loved Junko, and had a child. Their life was full of happiness. But on Misaki's 60th birthday, she finally remembered the part of her past that had vanished. As a child, she was the one who had stepped on Junko's shadow, and that's how Junko had vanished from the world. She was filled with regret and sorrow. The next day, she quietly left for the mountains to look for Junko's shadow, but each time she entered the forest, she would lose her memory. Luckily, she encountered Ginko, who helped guide her out. That night, her husband told Ginko everything he knew, and Ginko immediately understood. They had experienced the mysterious phenomenon known as the twilight hour. Any shadow that appears at dusk belongs to someone consumed by darkness. These people, in order to escape, must step on the shadow of a living person to take their place. If the switch succeeds, the person in the real world is swallowed by darkness, and the one who escapes forgets everything from that world of shadows. This phenomenon remains unsolved to this day. It was Ginko's first time witnessing such a case, but upon learning the truth, the man realized something horrifying. Junko had disappeared. Because of his wife Misaki, he longed to know how Junko was now, but Ginko couldn't say. Perhaps, like Misaki, she had switched with someone else, and now lived in another world. Misaki had overheard everything, and now she understood. She was the true cause of it all. Overwhelmed with guilt, she left the village the next morning without a word. When the man found Misaki gone, he panicked. He called upon Ginko, and together they searched the forest. At last, in a mountain valley, they found Misaki, weeping and repenting. She couldn't forgive herself for taking everything Junko once had. She felt as if she had stolen Junko's life, but the man didn't see it that way. His love for Misaki had never changed. He comforted her. Maybe Junko escaped the darkness long ago, or maybe she found peace in a better place. He wished Junko happiness from the bottom of his heart. But after that, the very next year, Misaki passed away from a cold. The man buried his wife, and that's when he saw a shadow behind him. He instantly recognized it. It was Junko, that familiar silhouette. Exactly like when she was a child. No one could have guessed that even after 50 years, kind-hearted Junko had never switched places with anyone. The man, filled with remorse, apologized to her on Masaki's behalf. He even offered to trade his life for hers, but Junko turned and walked away without a word. The man couldn't bear for her to stay trapped in darkness forever, so he stepped onto her shadow. That night, Junko returned to the village as a little girl, but everything had changed. Her parents were long gone, and her childhood friends had all grown old and gray, and she remembered none of it.